My day took a sudden turn for the worse when my daughter, who had eagerly set off for her field trip earlier, returned home in tears much sooner than expected. She was supposed to be at the theme park with her classmates, so her early return filled me with confusion and concern. Gently, I asked her what had happened and how she managed to come back home so quickly. Her response, between sobs, was that she was sent back in a car, which turned out to be driven by her father, my husband. This revelation baffled me, prompting an immediate call to him, seeking an explanation for this unexpected situation. However, the call ended abruptly, leaving me both angry and puzzled. Upon inspecting her backpack for clues, I discovered her carefully packed lunch ruined and her water bottle empty, which she attributed to her father's actions. This incident made me determined to confront my husband at his office, as I couldn't overlook the distress it caused our daughter Barbara. Our family consists of myself, Susan, a stay-at-home mom in my 30s, my younger husband, Ethan, and 8-year-old Barbara, my daughter from a previous marriage. My first husband's tragic passing in a car accident left me a widow, and despite my mother's encouragement to remarry, I was hesitant until I met Ethan at work. Despite my initial reluctance to get involved with anyone, Ethan's kindness and understanding gradually won me over, especially after he openly accepted my past and my daughter. His support during a challenging time in my life meant a lot, leading to a new beginning for us as a family. This incident, however, brought unexpected challenges and emotions to the surface, highlighting the complexities of blending families and the need for open communication and understanding among all involved. Struggling with the decision, I appreciated Ethan's patience when I couldn't immediately respond to his confession of love. I proposed a meeting between Ethan and my daughter, Barbary, as a test to see if we could become a family. Ethan introduced himself to Barbary, and they hit it off from the start. After a weekend outing together, I was pleasantly surprised to see a genuine bond forming between them, resembling that of a father and daughter. This connection reassured me, and I accepted Ethan's earlier confession, opening the door to our dating. 8 months later, we got married, filled with hope for our new life together. However, life as a married couple presented unexpected challenges. Ethan suggested I become a stay-at-home mom, a proposition that took me by surprise and led to some tension between us. He believed it would be better for Barbara, especially with her starting elementary school. Despite my hesitations and the convenience of working together, I agreed, hoping it would ease the situation. Our relationship began to strain over time. An incident occurred when I left Barbara in Ethan's care for the first time since our marriage, to visit the hair salon. Returning home to a silent house and discovering Barbara asleep without Ethan present, my worry grew. Ethan's absence and later excuses did little to assuage my concerns, especially when he returned with a suspicious floral scent on him. The trust between us deteriorated further as Ethan started to avoid spending time with us, causing both Barbara and me considerable distress. Despite her young age, Barbara's concern for my well-being was a comfort during these challenging times. Her smile became my sanctuary amid the growing doubts about Ethan and the stability of our family life. This period of uncertainty culminated in a moment of significant anger, highlighting the deepening rift in our relationship and the complex dynamics of blending a family, balancing new roles, and navigating the challenges of marriage. One night, I was jolted awake and realized Ethan wasn't next to me. Feeling thirsty, I decided to head to the kitchen, but I stopped in my tracks when I heard his voice. Ethan was on the phone, venting his frustration in a way that left me dumbfounded. He expressed regret about marrying me simply because I looked good for my age and lamented the fact that I had a child. His words were like a punch to the gut. I had always known he was somewhat distant from Barbara, but I never imagined his feelings were this harsh. As Ethan's bitter complaints poured out, my heart sank. The conversation took a darker turn as he pondered over what to do next, even suggesting he needed to assert his dominance. The shock of his blatant disrespect for both Barbara and me turned my shock into anger. I contemplated confronting him right there and then, but chose a different approach. Silently, I started recording his conversation, capturing his true sentiments and mockery as proof of his betrayal. After ensuring I had enough evidence, I retreated to our bedroom, pretending to have just woken up when Ethan came back. That night, sleep eluded me, not just because of Ethan's cruel words, but also due to the ongoing issues with his mother. She had always seen me as the woman who took her son away and was openly critical of our decision not to move in with her. Despite her protests and attempts to dictate our lives, it was a relief that my father-in-law had been more understanding. supporting our desire to live independently as our new family of 4. This revelation about Ethan, coupled with the constant pressure from his mother, made me reevaluate our entire relationship. The hope and love that had once brought us together were now overshadowed by betrayal, misunderstanding, and external interference. As I lay awake, contemplating my next steps, I realized that the challenges ahead were not just about confronting Ethan, but also about protecting Barbara and ensuring our happiness in the face of adversity. The hope and excitement that once filled our home seemed like a distant memory, and the unfolding events took me by surprise. It all began when Barbara came home from school, her eyes sparkling with anticipation as she handed me a notice for an upcoming field trip. "It's to a theme park in the next state," she said, barely containing her excitement. For a moment, our home was filled with a warmth that had been missing for some time, as we shared in Barbara's joy. Later that evening, Ethan joined in on our conversation, showing genuine interest in Barbara's field trip plans. It was a refreshing change to have such a pleasant family talk, especially given the recent tensions. However, unbeknownst to me, Ethan was harboring dark intentions related to Barbara's field trip, planning something that would shock us all. Ethan's late nights had become more frequent, and he seemed oddly cheerful upon returning home, though he dismissed my inquiries with vague responses. Despite noticing a familiar scent of body soap on him again, I chose to overlook these signs, focusing instead on ensuring Barbara could enjoy her field trip without any issues. The night before the trip, Ethan announced he'd be going to work early the next day, which struck me as odd, but I didn't think much of it at the time. My attention quickly shifted to Barbara, ensuring she was ready and excited for her big day. However, just 4 hours after Barbara left for her trip, I was startled by the sound of the door opening. To my disbelief, it was Barbara, tears streaming down her face, the joy of the morning replaced by distress. "I don't want to go," she sobbed, leaving me confused and concerned. How had she returned so quickly, and why was she so upset? Barbara revealed that she had been brought back by car and dropped off right in front of our house. The driver, to my astonishment, was Ethan. I immediately called my husband, seeking answers, but the call was abruptly cut off, leaving me with more questions than before. This unexpected turn of events shattered the brief peace we had enjoyed, prompting me to reassess everything I thought I knew about our family dynamics and Ethan's intentions. Overwhelmed with frustration and tightening my grip into fists, I urged Barbara to explain what had transpired. "Check my backpack," she suggested with a tremble in her voice. Upon inspection, I found the lunch I had lovingly prepared for her in disarray, its contents spilled, and the juice from her water bottle missing. "Did Dad do this?" I asked, to which she nodded affirmatively. Leaving Barbara with a trusted friend, I set out for my husband's office, fueled by a mix of anger and determination. En route, I received a call from Barbara's school, inquiring about her unexpected return home. The teacher, clearly anxious, hinted at hearing reports of a man, presumably Ethan, abruptly ending Barbara's much-anticipated field trip. My resolve hardened, understanding the depth of what Ethan might have done based on his previous phony conversation that I had overheard. Arriving at Ethan's workplace, a familiar face from my temp days greeted me, unaware of the storm brewing within me. My presence there was for Ethan, and despite the pain of the unfolding situation, I couldn't afford to retreat. I confronted Ethan in his office, interrupting the workday silence with our turmoil. Ethan, taken aback, tried to dismiss me, but I insisted on addressing the issue there and then, making it clear I was ready to expose his actions regarding Barbara to his colleagues. As the tension escalated, my former manager stepped in, offering to mediate. I seized the moment to question Ethan about his interference with Barbara's field trip, confronting him with the inconsistency of his actions and the worry they had caused. Despite Ethan's attempts to justify his behavior as a concern, I challenged his narrative, armed with information from Barbara's teacher and the undeniable proof I had. The recording of his earlier conversation admitting his true intentions. With the office as my witness, I was poised to reveal the truth, to hold Ethan accountable in front of everyone, showcasing the evidence of his deceit and the depth of his betrayal. The situation had reached a critical point, with the truth hanging in the balance, and I was determined to expose the reality of Ethan's actions for the sake of our daughter, Barbara. In a moment charged with anticipation, I decided to reveal the recorded conversation to see if Ethan could maintain his composure. As the recording played, Ethan's words filled the room, eliciting reactions of shock, and disbelief from his colleagues. Caught in his web of lies, Ethan attempted to deflect, claiming he was merely discussing a friend's issue. However, his explanation crumbled when I pointed out Barbara's absence from the conversation, leaving him no room to maneuver. As the reality of his actions began to sink in, Ethan's demeanor shifted drastically. He attempted to shift the blame to his mother, claiming he was only following her directives. While this revelation was shocking, it in no way absolved Ethan of his responsibility. Amidst this turmoil, my former manager suggested that Ethan take some time off work to resolve the family crisis, a proposal that seemed fitting given the circumstances. Determined to confront the issue head-on, I escorted a visibly nervous Ethan to his parents' house. Upon arrival, we were greeted by his mother, but it was his father who would hear the full extent of the day's events. After explaining everything and playing the damning recording, Ethan tried to paint himself as a victim, acting under his mother's instructions. Yet his father, unsawed by attempts at justification, pointed out Ethan's accountability for his actions. The room tensed as Ethan's father vehemently condemned both Ethan and his mother for their scheme, emphasizing the potential lasting harm such actions could inflict on Barbara. The mother, taken aback by her husband's stern rebuke, was left speechless. Ultimately, Ethan's father demanded they leave the house, closing the door on any possibility of reconciliation. As we left, the weight of the confrontation hung heavily in the air. Ethan, attempting to hastily remove his mother from the escalating situation, seemed eager to escape the consequences of their actions. This day marked a turning point, revealing the depth of deceit within the family and setting the stage for difficult conversations and decisions ahead. Determined to see justice done, I refused to let Ethan and his mother walk away without facing the consequences of their actions. During a heated exchange, when I confronted Ethan about being seen at Barbara's school trip, he fumbled for excuses, unable to deny the allegations convincingly. The conversation quickly escalated to the point where divorce seemed the only viable outcome. Ethan, taken aback by my decisiveness, realized the gravity of his situation too late. His and his mother's manipulations had led to their expulsion from the family home, a reality neither had anticipated. Their downfall was a direct result of their inability to accept Barbara and me, a sad conclusion to their misguided actions. As I left my in-laws' house, my focus shifted to picking up Barbara and ensuring her well-being amidst the turmoil. After explaining the situation to my parents and seeking legal counsel, I initiated the divorce process. I informed Ethan about the impending divorce papers and my intention to seek alimony, challenging him to contest these actions if he dared. The divorce proceedings concluded swiftly, with the court granting me a significant alimony settlement. Meanwhile, Ethan's mother's attempt to shift blame and insult us backfired, leaving her speechless when I confidently rebuffed her. I moved on, blocking any further attempts from her to reach out. In the aftermath, Barbara and I began rebuilding our lives, free from the negative influences that had once threatened our happiness. We found solace and strength in each other, determined to move forward and not look back. My father-in-law later informed me that Ethan and his mother continued to live together, embroiled in a blame game with no end in sight, a fitting end to their saga. For Barbara and me, however, this marked a new beginning. Our bond, strengthened by adversity, became our source of comfort and motivation. As we planned visits to my parents and looked to the future, it was clear that as long as we had each other, we could face anything. Our journey taught us the value of resilience and the importance of standing up for what's right, setting us on a path filled with hope and determination.